All right, now we're joined by Peter Steinbrueck, who's running for mayor. So you want to start with a 2-minute introduction.
Great. Well, thank you very much, 36th District Democrats, for inviting me here to give my brief talk on why I'm running for mayor. My name's Peter Steinbrueck, and let me begin by saying it's been said that the best way to predict the future is to plan it. Now, when I am mayor of the city of Seattle, in everything I do, I will approach it with a shared vision in every detail for our future. And I think that is what this is about, is a vision about the future. And I can recall back to my childhood 40 years ago when there was a vision to save the Pike Place market. Thankfully, we have the market here today. So these reflect my core values and what I think matters most to us. And as mayor, I will work with the city council and the city attorney, not fight with them, to get the best results for our city and for our future and for our children and for their children. We have some very serious growth challenges facing us, with 100,000 more people expected over the next 15 to 20 years. In the last 10 years, we had 50,000 people added to our city. We've got to approach this with a plan, a blueprint, if you will, for the future. My 3 priorities will be livable, walkable, and complete neighborhoods, mobility and options for getting around with less auto dependence safely, and thirdly, sustainable growth. Our city is becoming increasingly divided. We have a poverty rate that's higher than the states now. And yet we have a maritime job industry that is one of the best regional mainstays for living wage jobs. We shouldn't be throwing a stadium in the middle of that. We should be protecting it and promoting opportunities for all. My plan for the city is a city for all that values our neighborhoods, balances the growth challenges with livability and quality of life. I believe I have the experience and leadership qualities to go into this. Thank you.
So now we have 5 prepared questions that we're asking all candidates for mayor. 2-minute answers to each of these, and we'll start with Sure.
What is your strategy for implementing, leveraging, and perhaps improving the incentive zoning program to create diverse neighborhoods and assure affordable housing?
You know, we have a problem with the current incentive system. It doesn't provide nearly enough. In South Lake Union, as an example, where I think special interests, wealthy special interests, were more or less given the opportunity to continue to develop that area without a balanced approach, which is to say more housing, more diverse housing, housing that's affordable for all levels of income for the people who work there. I mean, one of the goals for our neighborhood should be to work in close proximity, to live in close proximity to where we work. So I think we can do better than a few dollars for affordability and moving on to the next. By doing better, I think it's planning better and having some real commitment to the targets that the comprehensive plan reflects.
Before we go to the next question, we've done introductions before we started, so.
I'm with the Crown Neighborhood Association of City I'm also involved with council.
And 36th District, right?
I know about 36th
Yes,
District.
you are.
I know a lot of nice communities that are vice president.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Clayton, you want to do
In your view, what is the city's role in assuring full educational and achievement opportunity in Seattle public schools?
Well, I think there's a great opportunity for the city to have a stronger partnership with our school district. And by that I mean more than contributing. The Families and Ed Levy is very important. I've supported that always consistently in the past, but there's more that we can do to support the education of our children. We need to strengthen our before and after school programs. We need to work with the school district around school facilities that can also be shared as community centers. They're the heart and the life of many of our neighborhoods. We can address some of the inequities that exist throughout the school system. Our children, there's a high disproportionality of 60% children of color and 50% free lunch program, which says a lot about the challenges of 5 hours a day to address some of the societal problems that present real challenges for the education of our children and success in the future. So it's partnership that I think I would like to see strengthened in many respects.
David, number 3.
Voters passed the Parks and Green Spaces levy in 2008. Yet, we've experienced cutbacks in staffing and facilities since then. When the levy is up for renewal next year, how can it be constructed to assure voters that their tax dollars will be allocated wisely?
Well, I think the more important question to ask is how can we ensure that our park system is well maintained and we're not neglecting and deferring maintenance into the future. Growth needs to pay for growth. If we're going to accept 100,000 more people over the next 15 to 20 years, we need to have open space. We need to have dedicated funding for our 6,000-acre park system. And there are some ways to extend that. I think that there are possibilities around growth contributing more to our park system in terms of impact fees, for one thing. The possibility of a park district fund, which could provide a dedicated source for park funding. I also believe in volunteerism and philanthropy in terms of the support that is already occurring around the city in terms of cleaning up invasives, and Parks Foundation, which does a lot for our park system. We need these kinds of partnerships, hi Barbara, to leverage every resource possible to maintain and support our park system, which is really the gem of our city, the gems of our city, and so important to complete neighborhoods. I'm not sure about the timing here. What is the actual, if I could just stop for a second, what is the...
You have 2 minutes.
For each question? Okay, because I was kind of racing through and I apologize because I thought I had 30 seconds. I'm sort of like geared to the 30 seconds.
This is the amount of time.
Okay, then I can relax. I'll relax a little bit, have some water.
Do you want another minute to expand on your answer on the green spaces?
On the green spaces, this city is one of the greenest cities in the country. You see that when you travel around the country. You see it from the air. We know it. We love it. And literally green. And it is what so makes this city special. We need to preserve heritage trees, and when new development moves into neighborhoods, we've got to balance that with the established urban forest canopy that we have, that we've been actually losing percentages of year after year to new development. I think that's a tragedy. Every tree that's taken out should be replaced with 3 new ones. Heritage trees should be preserved. Groves of trees that represent a unique asset to a neighborhood, we ought to do everything possible to buy, protect, and steward those important resources for our city, and then we'll have a healthier growth for the future.
Great. Elizabeth, number 4.
Okay, so there will likely be 2 types of election reform on the ballot this fall: district elections and public financing of campaigns. Do you support either or both of these, and why?
I am undecided on the district elections. I have mixed feelings about it, and I feel yet to be convinced that that there is a problem that deserves fixing, and this is the solution here. I support the goals: representation, accountability, reducing the costs of campaign financing. I think there's public financing as an option for that, and I'm not convinced that this is necessarily going to serve that end. I welcome the debate. I think it would be a good one. I support it going on the ballot. I would just point out also that we have council members throughout the city that are relatively distributed in terms of the geographic base, and I think that we need to have a healthy balance in terms of the power between the institutions of the executive branch and the legislative branch of government.
Jack, number 5.
Sure. What are your specific recommendations for selecting our new police chief and restoring public confidence in our police department?
Well, thank you, Jeff. I think this work ought to be initiated as soon as we elect a new mayor. I don't think it should start before that. There's uncertainty about who's going to lead, and the mayor is commander-in-chief and should have a role in the selection process and the final decision, and should be comfortable with the choice of the future chief of police. With that being said, I think we should cast our net far and wide. We need to set an example here in Seattle that this is a place that a the top law enforcement officers in the country would want to come to, and not step into a political mess of confrontation and conflict, which we've seen in the last couple of years in terms of the current leadership, and challenges to the process of the Department of Justice consent decree, putting up barriers and resistance. That's not the way we're going to attract the next best chief for our city. We need a reformed police officer, but more than that, we need to transform the department, I think, for the longer term into the 21st century. And the modeling and the leadership and the confidence building needs to start at the top, and it can't simply be about moving chairs around at the top command level. We need, I think, a fairly significant cultural change with the leadership of the Seattle Police Department. That being said, I think we have many, many fine officers, and we have an outstanding police department. It's got its share of problems. They're institutional, they're long-term, there are complex reasons why we've had problems with the use of force, alleged violations of civil rights, problems of accountability and transparency. All of these things, I think, are fixable with the right, informed, inspired, reform-minded leadership that this city deserves. So I will work for that, and I think this city deserves the very best we can find, whether it's within the department or nationwide, but we need our house in order as well, I would say, in order to attract the best and the brightest.
So now we'll open up to follow-up questions from the executive board. We ask that only executive board officers ask questions. These are 1-minute answers. So I see Jack, and then Clayton, and Elizabeth. So go ahead, Jack.
Thank you. I'd like to follow up on the fifth question.
Yes, Jack.
On the police department. Probably going back further past, but we can definitely put a finger on the 9/11 events and the Patriot Act, where we've seen this continuing militarization of police forces across the country, including Seattle. And now we've gotten to the point this year where we've had to address they're wanting to use drones, and they have installed surveillance cameras on every block downtown and
Sure.
West Seattle. So right now, we're told they're not turned on yet. But do you have a plan to address this kind of rush towards a violent culture?
Sure.
Police vis-a-vis the community.
I do. I think that this city deserves the highest quality policing possible. And that means strict adherence to professionalism and protection of civil rights. And the drones should not have been accepted in the first place. And obviously, that was revealed as a misguided decision on the part of the top leadership of the city, and was reversed. But it didn't seem to me to take more than a couple of seconds to figure out that that was not acceptable. It was a violation of our basic right to privacy. That being said, we need the professionalism and the training that balances the need for protection of civil rights, law enforcement, community policing, and partnership with our neighborhoods. I think is the way to get the best results out of public safety. It's through stronger partnerships. We backed off from that. We now have a 911 response system that is highly reactive. 90% of police resources are reactive 911 response call. Let's get back to some neighborhood policing and partnership that's proactive, that works to maintain quality of life and civility in our city without these kinds of excessive tools and uses of force.
So no surveillance cameras.
I can't say no. I think on the port it's called for. And I've talked with labor, and labor is accepting of the need for surveillance cameras. I think the federal government insisted on it. I think I would go with trepidation over the use of surveillance cameras. Nowadays, cameras are used for all kinds of things, and it's kind of the world we live in. But I think we have to balance that with civil rights and privacy protections.
Okay, Clayton, and then Elizabeth.
I defer to Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, and then Clayton.
So in your questionnaire here, you mentioned that we've had, let's see, we want to implement a socially just, equitable blueprint for walkable, livable, good neighborhoods, and through smart planning and balanced growth across our city.
Sure.
What would you characterize as smart planning and balanced growth?
Well, I'm an architect, a planner, a civic activist coming from the neighborhoods. Most of my life has been committed to protecting and enhancing quality of life and livability in our city. And I think we can do that while we accommodate thousands more who are coming to the city through better design, through better planning, balancing private interest goals and the special interests that have largely influenced in areas like our Soto Industrial District and South Lake Union with the needs of neighborhoods. So my approach there is to treat our neighborhoods as our city's best assets. It's a mosaic of unique and distinct neighborhoods that make what this city, the greatness of this city. We respect that, and we move forward with shared prosperity and equity throughout our neighborhoods. This is what I'm getting at, and not simply devote the city's resources largely to the special areas, the special interests and the certain areas of the city. So that's how I see it. I think we can do a much better job of balancing these priorities while protecting quality of life, not just protecting, but enhancing it in the future. Assets and deficits should be looked at more closely. Neighborhoods that don't have sidewalks, neighborhoods that have other needs that really ought to be better identified and respected and supported by the city.
Okay, Clayton, and then
Okay.
I have one.
As you fully appreciate, architecture is about the creation of memory of the city. And much memory is being created now in the form of multifamily housing. And it seems to be of a stunningly stupid nature. Generally speaking, that's an artifact of software, of the ease of copying from one project to the next, and so on. So my question is, would you be willing to attack that? Would you be willing to support a design competition toward the end of arriving at three, say, conceptually new approaches to urban housing that would not result in the absurdity of calling low-income housing which has no kitchens?
Sure. Yeah. You're speaking of the micro units.
Yeah.
Well, Clayton, we've done design demonstrations before. Sometimes the star power of those things have made them more expensive than than what we anticipated. But what I think my blueprint, if you will, as an architect and planner for the city is to advocate for a diversity of housing that doesn't rely on subsidies as the only way to provide affordability. There was a time in this city when we had cottage housing. Mother-in-laws were accepted a long time ago. How about introducing row houses? Why don't we see Brooklyn Heights style row houses here that are compact, livable, ground-related, can have shared backyards, landscaping integrated. I think ground-related, well-landscaped, well-designed housing that is diverse in typology is what we need to be promoting more. And if we can do it through design competitions, we have an incredibly strong architectural community here.
Yeah.
Bring those talents to bear, as we did with the townhouse problem, with the six-pack cookie-cutter townhouse that has afflicted the city. We brought in architects and we found some better solutions. I will do that in the future as mayor.
Okay, so you've talked about your qualifications, what you want to do, and you've sort of alluded to the incumbent. I'm wondering if you could specifically talk about why should he not be reelected?
I don't think he has a clear vision for the city's future, nor do I think he's demonstrated effective leadership. I think anything but that. I think there's been a leadership gap here that has resulted in confrontation and paralysis at times when it comes to particularly the consent decree and stalling and putting up resistance there. Not working with the city council, picking fights with the city attorney. That's no way to serve the greater good in this city. We can do better. I can work with the city council and the city attorney, and will, to produce the very best results we can for our city. Not stall and confront and put up barriers. Those are problems, and I don't think you get a second chance if you've spent 4 years in your learning curve for that. I don't think you deserve a second chance. I would point also to the bicycle plan and the polarization that has resulted there between drivers, others, the safety concerns. This is a challenge area for us. I support bicycling planning, but let's not polarize our communities around it.
Great, thank you. So we're about out of time. If you want to take 30 seconds for a closing statement.
Sure. I've spent a lifetime here in Seattle working for our city, for our communities, for our neighborhoods. I've been an activist most of my life. I am an architect by nature and practice a problem solver. I am devoted to the city, as I think you are, or you wouldn't be here, to a better life for all of us. There are issues beyond the built environment. That being said, my being an architect, that are important. We have a very high poverty rate here. We have a divided city. We have challenges in public education of advancing all children to succeed. I care deeply about the social issues as much as I do about the physical built environment and preserving our pristine, beautiful natural environment as well. So with all of those qualifications, I think I'm uniquely qualified to serve as your next mayor, and I hope you will support me. Thank you, 36th District Democrats.